The Night Ward. The rain hammered against the windshield as Daniel Mercer steered his old sedan toward Raven Point General Hospital, where he was scheduled for his first night shift. The building loomed like a massive abandoned fortress in the darkness, its windows dim and empty like hollow eyes. Daniel, a nurse recently transferred from another city, had no idea Raven Point had an unofficial nickname, the Living Morgue. People called it that because the number of patients dying during night hours was unusually high. His shift began at 11 p.m. As soon as he stepped into the lobby, Daniel sensed something off. The hallway stretched long and bleak under flickering pale lights, and the silence was heavier than any active hospital should ever have. Only his footsteps echoed on the cold tile floor. At the nurse station, a weary, middle-aged woman looked up at him. "You're Mercer? First shift, right? I'm Nurse Lillian Cross. There are a few rules here." "Rules?" Daniel asked. Lillian nodded, her eyes dark as if holding back something unsaid. "Don't go into Ward C after 1 a.m. Don't respond to any patient calling your name unless you can physically see them. And most importantly, if you hear the alarm from room 304, do not enter. That room has been sealed for 5 years. Daniel gave an awkward laugh. "Are you messing with me?" Lillian didn't laugh. "Just remember." The first few hours passed without trouble. Daniel checked on patients, updated charts, and restocked supplies. But as the night deepened, the atmosphere thickened with an unexplainable chill. At 12:55 a.m., he heard the unmistakable sound of a hospital bed rolling down the hall, even though the corridor was completely empty. Daniel turned around. Nothing. The sound echoed again, this time closer. He walked to the corner and looked. Silence. Emptiness. A cold shiver crawled up his spine. Trying to stay composed, Daniel headed back to the station, but the moment he stepped inside, he heard someone whisper, "Daniel," right beside his ear. He spun around. No one. Only the desk and the faint hum of the air conditioner. "Just fatigue," he muttered, but his heart was racing. At 1:12 a.m., the patient alarm from Ward B lit up, room 304. Daniel stared at the screen. His breath hitched. Room 304. The very room Lillian warned him about. He looked around. No one else was on duty. Probably a system error, he told himself. But the alarm rang again, louder, more urgent. Daniel picked up the radio. "Lillian, I'm getting a call from 304. Who's responsible for that room?" No response, only static and a faint sound that almost resembled breathing. "Lillian?" A weak voice finally responded. "Don't go." Daniel froze. The alarm from room 304 blared again, twice as loud. And then the door at the end of the hall made a soft click, as if unlocked from the inside. Impossible. That room should be sealed. Unable to shake the sense of duty and curiosity, Daniel approached. The door stood slightly ajar, revealing a sliver of darkness. He raised his flashlight and pointed it inside. The room was empty. An old hospital bed chained to the wall. A sealed window. No patient. Daniel stepped inside. Slam! The door crashed shut behind him. His flashlight flickered out. Darkness swallowed the room whole, leaving only the sound of breathing, not his own, coming from the corner. "You shouldn't have come," a voice whispered. Daniel's knees trembled. "Who's there?" A figure emerged from the darkness. A woman in a torn patient gown, skin pale like a corpse, eyes wide and unblinking. "Why did you open the door?" she rasped, her voice scraping like metal. It opened on its own." She moved closer, her face inches from his. "No one is allowed to leave." Daniel backed against the wall, reaching for the switch, for the handle. Nothing worked. The door felt welded shut. The woman's long blackened nails trailed gently along his throat. The last one who opened the door died here. Daniel's throat tightened. He flicked his flashlight back on, and the beam struck her face. She had no eyes. Only 2 deep, hollow pits where they should have been. "Give me back my eyes," she screamed, her voice fracturing into dozens of overlapping tones. Daniel panicked, pounding on the door. "Help! Please!" Footsteps approached from the hallway. Lillian. "Daniel! Move away from the door," she yelled. A force dragged him backward into the darkness, icy fingers clamped around his ankle. Daniel screamed and kicked wildly. The door burst open. Lillian grabbed Daniel's collar and yanked him out. They collapsed into the hall. The pale figure lunged toward them, but the door slammed shut just in time. The lock clicked into place. Silence fell. Daniel lay on the floor, shaking, tears streaming down his face. Lillian stared at him with both anger and pity. "I told you not to open it." Daniel's voice cracked. What happened in there?" Lillian exhaled. "The last patient in that room, her name was Evelyn Shore. She went blind after a failed surgery. One night, she vanished from her bed, and when they found her, 2 doctors from the night shift were dead. Their eyes had been gouged out." Daniel felt sick. Ever since then, at 1 a.m., she looks for someone to replace what she lost. Daniel wiped his face, trembling. I think I need to quit." Lillian stared into his eyes. "If I were you, I'd leave Raven Point tonight." Daniel left at dawn. As he got into his car, he heard it. Daniel, soft, almost tender. He twisted around. The back seat was empty. Trying to steady his breathing, he started the engine and drove. But when the street light outside flashed across his rearview mirror, for a split second, he saw a pale, eyeless face sitting behind him, smiling faintly. And the final whisper of the night followed him home. "You still owe me my eyes." Silent recovery. The storm hit Ravenscroft Medical Center like a wall of glass and steel. Clara Hastings, a recently graduated nurse, had been assigned to the overnight shift in the intensive care unit. The hospital, a modern building by day, seemed almost alive at night, its corridors twisting like veins, silently pulsating with unspoken secrets. Clara pushed the door to the ICU open. The antiseptic smell was overpowering, mixed with the metallic tang of blood lingering from previous hours. She adjusted her mask and glanced at the monitors. The steady beeping of life support machines felt oddly hypnotic. Her first patient was Mr. Thomas Reynolds, a comatose man in his 70s. The monitors blinked, tubes connected from every conceivable angle, yet something about his eyes, closed, pale lids twitching, made Clara shiver. As she checked his vitals, the hallway lights flickered. A cold draft swept through the ICU, though the windows were closed. She shook it off, assuming it was the storm. Around midnight, the nurse call button by Mr. Reynolds' bed lit up. Clara frowned. He had been unconscious for days. She pressed the intercom. "Mr. Reynolds, do you need anything?" No response, just the faint sound of static. She leaned closer, noticing a faint movement under his eyelids. Suddenly, the monitors began to beep erratically, faster, louder. Clara stepped back. "Mr. Reynolds," she whispered. Then she heard it. A whisper, coming from the foot of the bed. "Clara?" Her heart stopped. She turned slowly. The room was empty. Only the dim glow of monitors and the occasional flicker of light above. Trying to calm herself, she checked the other patients, each one seemingly peaceful. But the whispers grew louder, echoing across the silent ward. "Clara, come, help come." By 1:03 a.m., she noticed that Mr. Reynolds' ventilator had stopped. She rushed to reset it, but the machine wouldn't respond. The whispering now came from all sides, circling her, intangible and cold. Suddenly, she saw a shadow detach from the corner of the room. A figure, tall, faceless, robes dark as midnight, floating slightly above the floor. It glided toward her, silent, purposeful. Who are you?" Clara stammered. No answer. The shadow reached out, and she felt an icy pressure against her chest, as if the air itself had weight. Clara gasped, clawing at the figure. Then, as if released by an unseen force, it vanished. Panting, Clara noticed the monitors again. Mr. Reynolds' eyes had snapped open, but they were completely black, voids reflecting no light. He reached a hand toward her, smiling without emotion. She stumbled backward, knocking over a tray of medical supplies. As she tried to reach the intercom, the lights went out completely. Only the faint red LEDs of the monitors illuminated the room, casting grotesque shadows. "You shouldn't have come," a chorus of voices whispered. They seemed to originate from every bed, every shadow, merging into one. Clara ran to the door, locked. The handle wouldn't budge. The shadows began to gather, twisting, forming faces she recognized, patients who had died in the ICU over the last 10 years. Their eyes hollow, mouths opening and closing, silent screams echoing in her mind. Desperate, she slammed herself against the door. Her shoulder collided with cold steel. The whispers turned into a crescendo. "Join us. Stay. Recover. Forever." One shadow floated directly in front of her. Mr. Reynolds, his body now spectral, features distorted. "You can heal if you stay," he murmured, voice like wind through a grave. Clara's instincts screamed. She had to escape. She bolted to the emergency exit, ignoring the alarms that suddenly blared through the building. As she ran, she glanced back. Every ICU bed was empty. Yet the shadows lingered in the corners, moving closer, waiting. She burst through the exit doors, rain soaking her instantly. The night air was cold but real. She looked back. The hospital loomed, lights flickering like dying fireflies. Inside, she thought she had left the horrors behind, but then she noticed the reflection in the wet pavement. Mr. Reynolds' black eyes stared at her, and in that reflection, the shadows of the lost patients pressed against the glass windows, silently watching. Clara ran into the night, heart pounding. Behind her, the hospital seemed to breathe, corridors alive with silent voices, waiting for the next nurse, the next patient, the next soul to join the eternal recovery. And as the rain washed over her, one whisper followed her into the darkness. "You're not free yet." Echoes of mercy. A thick fog had settled over St. Gabriel's Hospital, muffling the sound of the city streets. Ethan Blake, a young investigative journalist, had been assigned to cover a human interest story, a feature about the hospital's struggling night shift. But something about the place gnawed at him the moment he stepped onto the wet pavement. The building loomed like a relic from another era, stone walls streaked with age and decay, windows dimly glowing like weary eyes. Ethan pushed open the front doors. The lobby smelled faintly of antiseptic mixed with old wood polish. There was a quietness here he didn't expect, not the comforting hush of a hospital, but the tense silence of a place holding its breath. "Good evening," a voice called softly. Ethan looked up to see a nurse at the front desk. Nurse Margaret Holloway, late 40s, hair pulled tightly into a bun, eyes sharp as glass. "You must be Mr. Blake. I hear you'll be shadowing the night staff tonight," she said. "We don't usually allow visitors, but since it's for a story, I'll make an exception." "Thank you," Ethan replied. "I won't be a problem." Margaret's gaze lingered on him, then flicked to the darkened corridors beyond. "Just keep to the main halls, and never go near the East Wing after midnight. Some things prefer solitude." Ethan chuckled nervously. "East Wing? That sounds ominous." Margaret's expression didn't change. "I'm serious." The hospital's night shift was eerie in its normalcy. Ethan followed the orderly Marcus as he delivered supplies and watched nurses tend to their patients. Yet the deeper they walked into the hospital, the heavier the air felt. The lights overhead flickered sporadically, and Ethan swore he could hear faint whispers echoing through empty rooms. At exactly 11:47 p.m., as he paused to photograph a row of vacated patient rooms, Ethan noticed the East Wing corridor. It was cordoned off with a faded red "Do Not Enter" sign. Curiosity prickled at him. The hallway beyond was darker than the rest, shadows pooling along the walls like liquid. Ethan shook his head. Just a hallway. Nothing more. But then he heard it, a faint rhythmic tapping. He froze. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from room 212, the first room along the East Wing. The door was slightly ajar. Ethan approached slowly, camera raised. The tapping stopped. He leaned closer. The door creaked open wider, and he saw it. A hospital bed empty except for a pale sheet that twitched slightly. No one else was in the room. A soft, raspy whisper came from the shadows. "Ethan." He spun around. Empty hallway. The whisper came again, closer, almost behind him. "Come, closer." Panic bubbled in his chest. Ethan backed out, but the door slammed shut on its own. He tried the handle, locked. Suddenly, the sheet on the bed twitched violently. Then, the silhouette of a woman appeared beneath it, slowly rising. Her face was obscured by matted hair, and her mouth opened in a soundless scream. The bed frame rattled, as if trying to shake itself free. Ethan stumbled back, heart hammering, camera forgotten. The whispers multiplied, overlapping voices echoing through the walls. "We're still here, you can't leave, you can't leave." The lights flickered violently, plunging the corridor into near darkness. In the dim glow, Ethan noticed the room's floor, scratched with words, hastily carved into the tiles. "They never sleep, they never leave, mercy is a lie." He fumbled for his phone. No signal, nothing. The whispers grew louder, chanting his name now. "Ethan, Ethan." Then a hand, pale, thin, almost translucent, shot out from beneath the bed. It grabbed his ankle with an icy grip. He yelped and fell backward, the bed's legs scraping the floor in a grinding screech. From somewhere deeper in the wing, Margaret's voice called out, "Ethan, get out, now!" He scrambled toward the sound, tripping over the scattered floorboards. As he ran, he glimpsed more shadows moving in the corners of the hallway, pale faces peeking around doorframes, patients long gone, but their anguish lingering, anchored to the east wing. Ethan burst out into the main corridor, gasping. Margaret was there, her eyes wide but controlled. "What happened?" she demanded. Ethan tried to explain. His voice shook, words spilling in a jumble. "The east wing, the voices, the bed, they tried to pull me in." Margaret grabbed his shoulders. "You saw them then? Good, most don't." "Who are they?" he whispered. "They were patients, all those who died here unexpectedly some decades ago. Their pain couldn't leave the hospital. The East Wing, it's their sanctuary or prison, and they're hungry for anyone who wanders too close." Her eyes darted to the hallway. "You were lucky to get out." Ethan swallowed hard, staring at the closed door. Why are they still here?" "Mercy," Margaret said, voice heavy. "They were promised care, and the hospital failed them. That promise echoes forever." The night dragged on slowly. Ethan tried to follow the shift, but he could not shake the images of pale faces and twisted whispers. Every step in the main corridor reminded him of the East Wing, of that bed, of the voices calling his name. By dawn, Ethan was packed and ready to leave. He thanked Margaret, promising never to publish a story about the night shift, or the East Wing. She simply nodded, a shadow of sadness crossing her face. As he drove away, mist curling around the hospital walls, Ethan glanced in the rearview mirror. And there, for the briefest instant, he saw a pale face with hollow eyes staring at him from the East Wing window. Mouth moving, whispering words he could not hear. He exhaled sharply, gripping the wheel. Some promises are never kept. Some echoes never fade.